Hi guys, Ryu here. I want to talk to you about Decal Machine and how to use it to its full potential. There are a lot of videos created by Machine on his YouTube channel that can teach you how to use Decal Machine, but looking at the sheer amount of videos, you have to spend quite a long time to learn it. And actually, I highly recommend you do that because I did that some time ago, and actually I find myself going back to his videos and reviewing some stuff if I forget, because the add-ons that he created Decal Machine, Mesh Machine, and Machine Tools. So he has videos for all of them, and they're just amazing. So I use them all the time, just like I'm using Hardops and Box Cutter, and I literally don't even open Blender if I don't have those 5 add-ons installed. What I'm going to do in this video is just briefly show you how to deal with most common issues, how to use decals in your daily workflow, how to solve certain problems. I'll show you some settings that could be beneficial, and that's about it. I will not show you everything. For example, I will not be showing how to create decals. But you can do that. You can create your own decals. In fact, I have my own decal packs on Gumroad and Blender Market. Some of them are free, so you can just download them and play with them, like this one. But I will not be talking about how to create decals today. I expect that you know how to install add-ons in Blender, but if you don't, then simply open Preferences, go to Add-ons, and then go to Install. Install the add-on from a zip file, which you can get from various websites, for example from Gumroad here, or Blender Market. And you install the add-on, you check this mark here, and then save Preferences, and you're done. Now once you install the add-on, there are a few things that I suggest doing. Some settings that you might want to change. But first of all is the source folder, the path folder, which gives you the source of the decal folders. So all these decal folders right here, they need to be placed in one folder, and Decal Machine pulls from that folder, and you can use it in Blender. So by default, that path is different, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's inside of Decal Machine add-on. So now let's say you have 3 different versions of Blender. You need to install 3 times the same amount of add-ons for each Blender. So instead of doing that and wasting space on disk, which when you have a lot of decals can be quite heavy, you might want to just change this to a certain folder, one folder, and change the path in here and then save Preferences, okay? Second thing is this here. By default, you will see machine name here. And you might want to change it to your name, because if you want to create decals, and you will not change that, they will come with the machine name on it. So in metadata, right? Then going back here, there are 2 more things that I want to talk about. Well, more than 2, but 2 are important. You could import decals by using import button, but to be honest, I've never did that. The way I do it, okay, I'll show you my decal folder. So this is the folder that this path here is specified to, right? So it leads to this this place. Now if I open a folder with a decal, right, you can see that he has a lot of folders, and each folder will contain 1 decal, okay? But at the end, at the bottom, this is essential. You see this file here. If you don't have that file in the decal folder, you will not be able to see the decals in Decal Machine in Blender. So if you want to manually, which you can do, drop folders with decal packs into your source folder, you can do that. Just make sure that the folders contain this file, and if they don't, you can always copy this file and paste it in a folder that doesn't have it, okay? And sometimes it is possible that this file will have a different name. So for example, instead of dot, it's gonna have an underscore. This will also not work, it needs to be dot, okay? So make sure that this is a correct name, There you go. So it has to be .is.280, right? Otherwise, if you go to Blender and open Decal Machine, you will not see that particular folder. So that's another thing, it's important. So basically what I do is I just grab the decal folder, I unzip it, and I just drop it into that source folder, and that's it. So if you do any changes while the Blender is running, you will need to click on that button here, which syncs everything, okay? So it sort of refreshes the changes. And then here in this section, you have settings for number of rows, number of columns, and the size of those columns and rows. And what I mean by that is when you open Decal Machine, right? Originally, you only have 2 rows. So you might want to get more rows over there in settings if you have more decals. You can also change sizes of the icons in this library, in this main view here, or in the decal library. So if you click on it, you see my icons actually are quite big. So I increase the size. So that's about it about settings. Also, you can always access machine, Decal Machine or other machine add-ons through the N panel. Okay, so when you press N and you find machine here, you can adjust settings in this section. So there are basically two types of decals. Okay, one of them is geometry decals, which means that they are created based off of geometry. Okay, so you create geometry, then you bake it into an alpha map, right? Like this. And info decals, which are basically texts, okay? Like this one, right? The geometry decals, they have 3 types, okay? One of them is subset decal, which consists of 2 materials, which means that, let's say, if you have 2 materials in a scene, so let's add a quad sphere here. Let's put some. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering how am I adding those materials so quickly, it's because I'm using Hardops. They have a fantastic system for adding materials. Well, the whole add-on is just insanely good, but there's a really quick way of adding materials to geometry, and you can also choose the type of material. So it could be glass, it could be emission, it could be pulsating emission. It's just amazing. So anyway, I'm gonna add some different material here and maybe slice it in half. And let's say, actually no, I don't need to do that. I'm gonna select this and then go to match, and you can see I can switch between different types of materials, as long as these are BSDF Blender materials, right? So principled BSDF, you can change them as much as you like, as many materials that you have in here in the library. So if you want to create more materials and add them, you'll be able to change them by scrolling through materials. So that's great. So that's one type. The other type of decals would be simple decals. Okay, simple decals, they only have one set of materials. So you see, I can't scroll through materials. They usually inherit the material of the surface that they've been placed on. And if you look closely, there is a parenting line in here, because when you have a surface selected on an object selected in Blender, and you apply decal, right? you'll see that it's going to be automatically parented to do that object. So if you move the object, it will move with the decals, which is quite useful, right? So these are two types of geo decals, and there's one more, which is a panel decal. Okay, I know there are some sample panels here in Decal Machine. I'm not sure if I even have them here. I should have them somewhere. I rarely use them, to be honest, but they're quite powerful. Sample panels. I'm not sure where I have it, but I'll show you what I mean. If you select an edge and you separate it, right? And now we have, let's remove this. And we have edge here, okay? So I'm gonna move it a little bit here so we can see. And then I'm gonna go to panel, right? You can see that I can create a panel effect by using edges, and there's a quite extensive video on how to use this function on Machine website, on Machine YouTube channel, as a video specifically dedicated to panels, and one of those here somewhere. There you go, panel, this one. And it's showing this one as well here, showing details how to create panels and how to use it, but it's actually quite powerful. The cool thing about panels is that you can if you have two different types of materials on the geometry, right, you will see that the panel here sort of inherits the color and texture of the material on the right side, but you can fix it by simply clicking reapply, and automatically the panel will split and inherit the color of the geo on the left side. So that's fantastic. So you could create, you know, fake paneling on very complex curved geometry without any shading issues, as long as you have the edges. So that's the third type. And then you have info decals, which are basically text or graphic decals, right? That can be applied to, you know, to geometry, right? Like this. So this could be, those could be text decals, or you know, sort of sticker-like decals that could be transparent or you know, colorful, and so on, right? And you can create those decals from pictures, from geometry, or from text. So there's a decal creation panel in here. Again, I'm not going to be talking about it today, but you can do that. So now I want to show you a few tricks with using decals and most common issues that you can run into, right? So let's create, again, I'm using hard ops for creating all those shapes and so on, because it's just so easy and just a pleasure to work with. I can't stand the default Blender. Most of the default Blender tools is just too unintuitive and take too much time to use. Let's say you want to apply a decal to this surface, right? You have a decal in a decal library, and you want to choose a decal. Let's go with something smaller, like well, let's say this one, okay? Now you can see that there's a curved surface in here, and the decal is not really inheriting the curvature of the surface. But before you actually apply a decal to a surface, right, you press G and you can move move the decal, but you can see that it sinks into geometry. However, if you press Control, it will automatically snap to the surface and will show you the direction of the normal of the plane of the decal in which it is facing, which is helping you to determine where to place it. And if I were to place it in here and then go to D, which is a shortcut for Decal Machine, and click on Project, you can see that automatically the decal will be projected to the surface. And if you go to the modifier stack, you're gonna see that Decal Machine applied displace and normal transfer to that decal, right? And now, once it's applied, you can't move it, okay? You can move it in edit mode, like this, right? But it's already deformed, so you will need to, and even if you remove the displacement and the normal transfer, decal is already applied. So unfortunately, you can't do anything with it, you can't move it, right? So let's apply the same decal and let's press Project, okay? And then if I go to Adjust, I can adjust its height. So even though I can't move it, I can adjust its height. Occasionally you will see that when you apply decals and you start rendering stuff, especially in cycles, because in Eevee it's not that bad, but in cycles it is really peculiar, and you need to be very precise on how you place the decal on the surface. So it needs to be really close to the surface, right? So if it's sometimes, you know, decal is sinking in partially like this, okay? And you can see that the geometry is not on top of the object. You press Adjust, you click it, and then you can adjust it. If you want to slow the adjustment down, you press Shift, and if you want to slow it even more, you press Control. So with Control and Shift, you can adjust it. If you're placing decals on a flat surface, right? So let's use the same decal and place it in here, okay? You can press D, adjust, and then move your mouse to rotate the decal. In fact, let me turn the screencast keys. Screencast, that's a bit too big. Yeah, it should be alright. Alright. So you can press D and then adjust, and you can rotate it. And then again, if you press Shift and Control, you can fine-tune the rotation, because that's in increments without any keys being depressed. Control and Shift, fine-tuning, right? So once you place it and apply it, right, project it, then you can go to Match, and if you scroll, you can scroll through materials. Now you can see that this decal is a subset decal, which means it has two materials. The net inside is changing color. Now what if you want to change the color of the other part of the decal? You press D and Shift, and you hold Shift, and you can change the other parts of the decal that can be color adjusted. And if you release it, you adjust in the middle again, right? If you want to match the decal with the surface, so let's say you change your mind and you apply a different color. Let's make it dark to make it, you know, really stand out. And you can see that the outline is quite bright because we changed the material to something more silver-like. So if you press D and reapply, you can see that the Decal Machine automatically inherited the color of this surface, the new material. And then again, you can go to Match and start changing things around. Another adjustment that is quite cool, that you can play with, right, is the parallax effect. So you go to D, you press on Adjust and press E. And if you move your mouse left and right, you can adjust the parallax effect. Not all the decals will work well with parallax. For example, this decal has hollow space underneath the net, and the net sort of floats in the air, if you know what I mean. So there is a gap underneath this net in real geometry before it was baked. That's why it behaves so strangely. But some decals, they actually work quite well with parallax effect. Like for example this one, right? If I'm going to go to adjust and press E, you can adjust the parallax effect. You know, you can make it a little bit taller. It will deform geometry slightly because all these images are JPEG or PNG based, and PNGs they distort straight lines after when they become, you know, normal maps. So be careful with the parallax. But you can adjust this, which is quite cool. What else we can do here? Let's say you have let's say you want to have the decals on both sides of the geo, but they are not symmetrical. So for example this, let's maybe change color to something brighter because this is a little, wow, that's awful. That's better. Also this one has a little bit ugly shading, so maybe we can put some weighted normals. There we go. So I'm going to just simply reapply it and change the color of the decal, the material, and then I'm going to use hard ups to I know that machines suggest to use machine tools. I mean the tools provided for mirroring decals, but I just prefer using hard ups. It's just so much easier. And you can see that the decal was mirrored, but the text on it is incorrect. So what you need to do is flip the UI, flip the UVs. So you go to the mirror and you flip U or V or both, depending on what you want to do. So in this case, you see now the text is being displayed properly. Unfortunately, let's see if we can. We can't really. Yeah, that's tricky. We can't really mirror it in a way that the text is going to be going the other way, because simply I would need to physically create a different decal with the text going the other way. So this will not work, but this works quite well with texts. For example, you have, let's say this decal, right? Okay, and if you mirror this, right, across, you'll see that the text is gonna be inversed, right? So what you need to do is go to here and flip the UVs, and you're good to go. There's another thing that it's quite important to switch on when you're working, especially with text decals. And I think it's kind of not sure if it's gonna be visible in YouTube, but occasionally, especially with decals that that are transparent, but you can see here maybe like a whitish edge around the T. That I really don't know if YouTube's gonna be you're gonna be able to see it in YouTube. Maybe if I'm going to darken the color of this geometry, it's gonna help. Oh, there we go. So now you can see this edge probably, right, going around the T. And occasionally you're gonna see like streaks of lines. This is quite visible in oftentimes visible in the object mode under textured. So when you go to object and click on textured, sometimes there you go, see this line here. So these are caused by I'm guessing it's a PNG issue, or maybe the way Blender reads PNGs. I don't know. Machine was explaining in one of the videos, but quite frankly I can't remember why exactly it's the issue. But you can fix it very simply by clicking on this option here. So if you go to color interpolation, you switch it from linear to closest, and now you can see all these artifacts are gone. So that's how you fix this particular problem. So just remember, if you work with info decals, you always want to have this option changed. Now, if you're rendering decals and you go to your light paths, right? And if you have transparency, I think it was transparency set to too low, like 2, for example, this might cause those lines to pop in the render. So it was either transmission or transparency. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, it will not show in the object view, but in render, occasionally, if you have those one of those set too low, I think it was transmission. Oh no, yeah, it's transparency. Yeah, it was transparency. If you have transparency, because it's based on alpha, PNG is an alpha background, you know, there is transparent background, so it must be transparency. So if you have this set to 2, I've noticed that it's a bit too low, and you might want to pump it up to 4, 3 or 4, and then it should be fine. So those 2 things are worth keeping in mind when you're rendering stuff. Now, another cool thing about Decal Machine is Decal Management on a scene. Or let's say that you have, I don't know, 200 decals in a scene, and they're all on one object, and you decided to change color of the object and material, and then you think, you know, shit, I have to change all the materials on each single decal, and some of these decals could be very small. They could be, you know, tiny, and it would require a crazy amount of work. But you don't have to do that, because there is a great function in Decal Machine that allows you to change it for all decals. So if you click on one decal, right, you will be able to access one decal. But if you double click it, it will automatically select all decals that have been parented to this particular object. So you can see again the parent lines in here. So this object is a parent object. So these are children. So if you double click on decals, you can select the whole bunch of them. Then again, if you want to change, for example, color or material for a specific type of decals on a parent object, if you click slowly, so you click 1, 2, you can select the same type of decals on the parent object without selecting all of them. If you click fast, you select all of them. If you click slower, you select only the ones that are of the same type. Now that is cool. So you see, for example, making changes to materials now, you can do it globally, like that. And these decals will not shift, because it's an unfortunate example, because this is a simple decal, which means it doesn't have any other material. It's a subset decal, not a subset, it's a simple decal. These are subset decals, which means they have 2 materials, right? So I can change material for all of them at the same time, and that includes secondary material too. So that's pretty cool, right? The same goes for adjusting. So for example, if I wanted to adjust the height of the decals, right, I can do that. Same goes for parallax. If I go to parallax, I can do this as well for all the decals on the given object, right? Now, I want to show you something cool that I realized quite recently. So let's say you want to place a decal on a curved surface like this, and let's go to something more complex like this one. You can of course resize those decals if you want, right? And if I wanted to place this here and just place project, you will see that part of it will be cut off, part of it will be distorted. And the reason is that because on this kind of curvature, right, there is not enough subdivisions on this geometry. So you can actually, right, you can subdivide the decal by adding loops, okay? And well, actually we can just add loops like this. So press Ctrl R and add loops. We don't really need a vertical loops, so we can add like few, you know, just for the hell of it. And I advise you to always resize, apply the scale of the object you're applying to. And then before you start working on a decal, press Alt P and remove the parenting. Parenting will be reset, will be set again after you apply the decal, so you don't have to worry about that. But it works best if you remove the parenting. And then if you press project, you can see that the decal now is properly projected. It projects all of it, there's no cut off parts. And after you adjust it, everything looks peachy, right? So the really cool way on, you know, to, especially when you have geometry, something like, so for example, let's cut it with box cutter, right? And shift it to knife. And then I'm gonna have this, right? So if I wanted to, you know, create something crazy like this, and for example, apply a decal to it. So let's grab some text decal. You see, it doesn't work that well. So if I apply it now, it will be distorted. However, if it doesn't always work, but you know, quite often it works perfectly. Then I'm going to apply the scale. I'm going to remove the parenting, right? And then I'm going to reapply this decal, and it should be better. No, it isn't. So you see, not always works. Not always works. I wonder if it would be better if I actually curve this. Let's see. If I curve this surface, shade it smooth, apply the same decal. See now here, this is a good thing I want to show you. It's cutting off the decal here, and there's nothing you can do about it. If you go to adjust, you're not gonna be able to bring it back. So the only way to fix this is by introducing loops to the geometry. I'm gonna introduce here and here, and see now even projecting works a bit differently. It's more accurate. You see now it curves properly. So that is how you solve problems with decals on curved surfaces. So I showed you, and by the way, the adjustment of the height works the same way with info decals as with geometrical decals. Okay. So now there is one more thing I want to show you. Let's say you want to change color or, you know, properties of this decal. So in order to do this, you need to go to your material tabs. I think you can also do it through the decal panel, through the adjust panel, because you can see that you have mirror functions in here and etc. But it doesn't give you all the functionalities that material tab gives you. So what you want to do is change the info subsurface from 0 to 1, and then you can colorize it if you want, but if you don't, you can remove the color, and then you can actually change value on the decal itself. So if you wanted to have this white decal pop on a white background, you don't need to create new decal, you simply change it to a dark one, and there you go, sorted. So let's project it, so it's actually on the surface, there you go. And then you can change different values. So for instance, you can change it to metallic, right, which is going to be like looking like a sticker with sort of like a metallic surface. Then you can change info roughness. You can change, adjust info clear coat and clear coat roughness. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. You can create interesting effects by playing with the roughness values and clear coat values. You see now this looks like a sort of like a glossy, half glossy, like a, well, half matte, half glossy sticker. And of course you can change colors, yeah. So all you need to do is introduce saturation, right, and hue, and then you can just shift colors to whatever you want. This will not work with decals that are not transparent, so this will not work with all the decals. So for example, if you wanted to change color on this one, I don't think it's going to work. There you go. See, it loses all the picture data from it, because it will introduce a uniform color for the entire decals. So the only decals you can do it with are these. However, you can still adjust values like metallic. You can switch it to metallic. You can change roughness, right? You can change the specular info of this sort of reflectivity. I think this is what it is, and so on. I think that would wrap up all I wanted to talk about in regards to Decal Machine. There's of course many more things that you can do. For instance, you can create your own decals, and it's a lot of fun. And I suggest you you go to Machine website, Machine YouTube channel, and watch some of those videos, especially watch videos on the stuff that's coming up in 2.8, sorry, in 2.0. For Blender 2.8 and or 2.9, I'm guessing now. There's gonna be a lot of interesting stuff, like for example emissions for decals, okay, atlas maps, all kinds of crazy stuff is coming for Decal Machine. So and if you get Decal Machine now, so you get the version that's out now, the update is free. At least that's what I think, because I remember my first Decal Machine was 2.79, and 2.8 update was free, just like it is for Hardops and Box Cutter. These add-ons have free updates, and unlike Decal Machine that is not being updated that often, however, it is an extremely stable add-on. The Box Cutter and Hardops have updates literally weekly, if not more often than that. So it's a great value for money. So anyway, guys, enjoy your decaling. It's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, drop me some comments. I'll try to answer them. But I think you should be good to go with all the info that I gave you. Take it easy and talk to you next time.